allegiance to the recording in progress. United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay.
This is just
Yeah.
Did yours go?
No. Oh, well, I have mine in the other room, so it's not to be disruptive. Okay, I'd like to call this meeting to order, and I'd like a motion to accept the regular meeting minutes from May 22nd. I did not complete, I sound like I'm from Pennsylvania with leaving it up in the air. Thank you, Mark. Okay, that's fine. Are you on call? You're not, it's for a fire call. If there's enough to... You're fine. Okay, sorry about that. And a second? Would someone like to second?
Oh, sorry, second, yes.
Okay, yes. Mark is first. Cindy is second. Any comments, questions, or corrections? Okay, hearing none. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed say no. Motion carries. Okay, so I would like to open up the meeting for two public hearings. The first is for a local law abolishing the planning board, transferring all functions of the planning board to the Board of Appeals, and increasing the Board of Appeals to 5 members. So as many of you know and the board knows, we've had a challenging time keeping people on the boards, finding willing people to participate, to go through the requisite training. And then we have a zoning board that meets very, very infrequently and yet has those same responsibilities. So following the lead or example of other communities, they have combined those boards together, share those responsibilities, now have a zoning board of 5 people with 2 alternates so that people will participate. It's much easier to keep a quorum. The alternates know what's going on. So that's what we would like to do. And as part of the law, it goes in and changes our code, our what do we call it? The building codes.
Yes.
So just to make sure that there's no overlap, that there's no conflict by combining that. So those are all addressed in the local law. So at this point, I'd like to open it up for any questions or comments. And I do note that there are members of the Planning Board and the Zoning Board of Appeals on the line. So thank you for coming, gentlemen.
Someone has a question on the phone.
Okay, do you want to manage that? There's a question on Zoom.
There are several different people, I don't know who it is. Yeah, they're not.
So they have to identify themselves.
One is phone number.
Okay, so is there a question? Is there a hand up?
There was at 518-860-5225. There was, but it's gone now.
I'm not sure who that is.
Okay.
That's my number, Mark.
Who is that?
Oh, there was.
That's Rebecca Smith. I can either hear you on the phone or I can see you on video, so I'm listening on the phone now.
Okay.
That's why the hand was up.
Okay, good. All right, so another member of the planning board has just arrived, Susan. So this is to consolidate, to make use of our human resources, to ensure that we will have a quorum. So in past months, we've had to cancel because we haven't had a quorum, and we are doing the next public hearing to address that issue as well. So, any comments, questions?
He's on Zoom done.
Yeah. Did you have a question? Are you running my meeting? Are you running my meeting?
No.
Okay. Then stand to be recognized. Yeah. So if you would state your name for the record.
First year I own 2 properties here in the village. I'm not for nor against this. I just wanted to kind of understand because I was a zoning board member back in my hometown for 10 years. And the way that it worked was the planning master plan.
Yep.
And create the zones and things of that nature, which then the village board would then approve. So the master plan would basically drive development in the zones. And in a way, the zoning board basically allows you to break things, in a way.
Well, the zoning board of appeals,
Yes, right.
under special circumstances.
Right. And that's a quasi-judicial board. So they basically are judges at that point. And they carry a lot of weight with their decisions, such as if you had a place that wanted to do something here that was completely against the zone, the town didn't like it, and the zoning board said no, that goes with the property until the zone changes, even though it got sold 6 times. So there's a lot of power in a zoning board of appeals. And I'm not so sure it's really that great of an idea to split it and make it just basically one board, because in our government we have 3 branches. We have legislative, we have judicial, and we have executive. The planning board would be basically the legislative branch. The board would be the executive, and the zoning board would be the judicial. So we have a checks and balances in our federal government, in our state government, and I'm not so sure we shouldn't have it also. Because more opinions, more thoughts, more comments, kind of only make it stronger.
So let me make a comment to that point. In New York state law, there are no planning boards. There is no legal precedent for a planning board. There is only legal precedence for a zoning board. So we are getting more in line with that. And the other fact is, Mark Query, how long have you served on the Zoning Board of Appeals? Forever.
No.
How many times have you been called up in the last forever? Yeah. So we have people who are willing and able to serve on the zoning board, but who are never called. So I think that this provides an opportunity for more people to have those opinions, to fill in, to exchange those discussions, and then have it within the legal precedent of New York State.
Would there be any benefit to potentially increase the number from 5 to potentially 7?
According to New York State law, if you have a group of 5, the term is 5 years. And I don't think that we'll get people to serve for 7 years straight. So right now there's 5 with 2 alternates, and the alternates can weigh in on the discussion, although they don't vote at that particular time. So in essence, there are 7 who can discuss and 5 who vote. So,
Okay.
all right. Any other comments, questions? No one online? Okay, so at this point, if I can have a motion to close the public comment on this local law. Cindy, second. Jim? Any, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
So at this point, I would like a motion to have to approve local law abolishing the planning board, transferring all functions of the planning board to the Board of Appeals, and increasing the Board of Appeals to 5 members. May I have a motion?
So moved.
Mark, second. Cindy, any comments or questions? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
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 All opposed say no. Motion carries. So for our,
I'm sorry, I don't know who F. Williams is.
can F. Williams identify themselves, please? On Zoom?
Yes, my name is Fred Williams. I own a house. We're new owners in Speculator on 112 Oak Mountain Drive.
Great. Thank you, Fred. Pleasure to meet you. You're later on in the agenda.
Okay, thank you.
All right, thank you. Okay, so now I would like a motion to open public meeting number 2. May I have a motion?
So moved.
Okay, Rebecca, second. Mark. So all in favor say aye.
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 So this is a public hearing for a local law authorizing the Village of Speculator public bodies to use video conferencing technology for public meetings. As you know, prior to this, open meeting laws did not allow for video conferencing or Zoom type of meetings. We implemented this under the state emergency plan, and now would like to go forward to keep this possibility available for all public meetings. So this would allow, provided that there's a quorum, any public body to be both present and members on Zoom for a few extraordinary circumstances, such as disability or illness, caregiving responsibilities, or any other significant factor or event which precludes such members' physical attendance at such meeting at a meeting location that is open to the public. So this would also be open to the zoning board, what do we call it now? The Board of Appeals to do that.
That's the only other board that we have that would be.
That would be public, correct. So this would allow us to do it for hearings, again, within those two boards, correct. So I'd like to open it up for any comments, questions. Okay. Yes, and
when they talked about the Zoom meetings, the governor mentioned a while back that if you did your meetings by Zoom, that if one of your members were, say, in the Caribbean enjoying vacation, but joined in on the Zoom meeting, if there happened to be somebody down there in the Caribbean that was interested in Speculator New York, that person down there would have to provide a meeting place for that person to go over to be able to discuss with the board members.
that changes this now. That changes this now. So there is a public meeting site, and then this allows those board members to call in without making wherever they are public. Right. Okay. All right. Hearing no other comments or questions, I'd like a motion to close the public hearing. Cindy, second. Jim, second. First, second. Any comments or questions? All in favor, say aye.
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 All opposed, say no. Motion passes. At this time, I'd like a motion to approve local law authorizing the Village of Speculator public bodies to use video conferencing technology for public meetings. May I have a motion?
Mark.
Mark, second. Jim, any comments or questions? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
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 All opposed say no. Motion carries. Thank you very much. If you don't want to stay for the rest of the meeting, you're fine. If you want to stay, that's fine too, but thank you. I just wanted to make sure you had opportunities to comment. Okay, so moving along, we are, Ed, I messed up again. I'm sorry. This is the report of wastewater treatment, water and wastewater. So, Ed?
Good evening. I'm going to start with the water department. We had our DOH inspection today. There are no major concerns or issues to report, just a few minor maintenance things she wants us to take care of. All the hydrants in the village have been painted and weed whacked. I think there's still a few on some side roads that need to be done. We'll make sure we have those all cleaned up again before the 4th. The hydrant on Woodward Drive has been repaired and is back in service. We installed a new injector at the well building. We accidentally broke one off when we were replacing that valve down there. Took a little while to get. Checking chlorine throughout the system, and we're continuing to install meters and plan and hope to install everything that we have in stock by fall, and that would include the ones that I order for this year. As for the projects going on, existing FEMA water crossing, we're just waiting on FEMA after we did a SO change. This is due to the estimated price in comparison to the bid price, trying to get the increased cost covered by FEMA. So it is a process, and more than likely that occur until next year, based on the way things have went so far.
Right.
So the next thing, I'll just go right to wastewater. There's probably some little things that I forgot, but they're not a huge deal. We'll be having our annual inspection for DEC as well in the next couple weeks. There are a few things that I need to discuss with him, some of which I'm not going to bring up at this time, but will need to be discussed in the future. For now, we have our check of pump stations bi-weekly. As you all know, we replaced the pump at pump station 3. In the process of that, we found that the panel itself that controls both pump 1 and pump 2 had some issues. There was a relay that was bad, which I picked up at the conference that I went to. When I installed that relay, a capacitor blew out in that process. Also, the pump 2 runs the pump 1 timer, and pump 1 runs the pump 2 timer. This panel is 20 years old. It probably can be fixed. However, I believe our best option is to replace that panel.
What is the life expectancy on the panels?
20 years old.
Most things in wastewater and water is 20 years for equipment and things like that. This panel is the one on the corner of Black Bear and White Birch Drive. The little small one. He has gotten one quote from the company that installed it originally for $2,274. I was going to get another quote from W2 Operator Group that does the work on our pump stations. However, he would have ordered it from the same place. And I didn't get a quote from Aqualogics yet because they would build the panel from scratch, and that would cost more money, is what I'm told. So this is a direct replacement for the pumps that are there. I can reach out for an actual quote from Aqualogics, but like I said, I think it's going to be almost double the price.
Okay, so for
I've also done the steel panel and not fiberglass in case something falls.
Okay, in order to follow our procurement policy, you would have to get at least two other. It's below 3,000. So one other quote, or give a write-up as to why other quotes are not possible.
I can do that. Is it okay if we get approval, and then I'll go with the lowest at that time? Because if I find out another quote tomorrow, and then I have to wait 2 weeks for approval and all that stuff, or actually a month for 2 weeks, I guess.
So do you think that the highest, so you're asking for just the one panel from Fluid Kinetics for $2,274 or less? Or are you also?
That is the price.
Okay, and does that include?
No, that is the only thing I'm trying to spend money on. The next step of that would be I'm going to receive that panel. We still have the panel from the insurance claim a year and a half ago that has not been installed because install was not included in the insurance claim, unfortunately.
Okay.
So what my plan was to have W2 Operator Group come up and install both panels in the same day, and he was going to give me quotes for that. He's the one who does the work on our pump stations.
So the 2 panels, he wouldn't do the 3 panels.
No,
Pump station 3.
Okay.
Sorry. I'm sorry.
I only need to buy one panel. The other panel is already here.
All right, then.
That was purchased through insurance. Basically, what I'm saying is I'm like 98% positive this is going to be our lowest quote. I can get another quote as per our policy.
Yes.
But I'd like approval to move ahead when I do get that quote, and this one's the cheapest. I'll go with the cheapest no matter what, obviously.
So I'd like a motion to approve the purchase of a panel for Pump Station 3, no more than $2,280.
So moved.
Okay, Mark, second. Cindy, any comments or questions? So I would just request, Ed, that you call me with the lowest price before going ahead with it.
Yes, that's not a problem. I will get one tomorrow or get one on the way tomorrow.
Okay. All in favor of this procurement approval, say aye.
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 Motion carries. All right, carry on. Air valve.
All right, most of the air valves in the plant have been completed. We did have our annual blower maintenance through Excelsior Blower. They found that we had a check valve that was broken. He gave me a quote, and it was $1 under our preliminary policy, so I didn't have to get another quote. So I had him order that, and it was actually shipped and got here today, and I ordered it on Friday, so that's very good. I'll get that in this week. We have, now that all the construction's pretty much subsided, we've cleaned the entire plant. We equalized the tanks. We pressure washed all the algae and everything, the windows, the walls, just to make everything cleaner. But during that time, we found that there were multiple holes between the effluent tank and the aeration tank, outside, not inside, and one hole between the digester and the effluent tank. These do need to be addressed at some point. This has happened before, and a plate was welded in between the effluent tank and the digester. But basically what I'm doing at this time is I'm waiting for my annual inspection, which I hope is before the 4th of July. If not, then it's going to go online. And when our DC engineer comes, I'll have him look at it and see what he thinks, if I can run it. In general, this is my opinion, but once everything is full in all the tanks, you're equal. So there's no transfer between. That transfer is really pinholes that are shooting water through because you have a higher pressure on one side than the other. So in my eyes, you can run it with no issues, but I'll wait to see what he says. If he says we can't use it, then it'll get taken offline and I'll get somebody in to get it repaired. At that point, we probably won't even use it this year, but we'll play it by ear and see what happens.
Okay.
Same thing with the upgrade project. 99% of things are complete with minor bugs that need to be addressed. I did have Aqualogics up here last week to do a run through with the automatic blowers and stuff. That will be going on probably this week with temperatures coming back up a little. Basically what this is going to allow us to do now is at nighttime when we have low BOD or food coming into the plant and oxygen isn't needed as much, the blowers will ramp down to save on energy costs. And then when BOD is needed in the morning, when the temperatures start to rise and you need more DO, dissolved oxygen, those blowers will ramp up on their own. And valves will open and close automatically. So I'm really hoping this will work very well and save us a little bit of money.
Great.
It could go the other way too and basically say we need more air, and then that'll be a whole other issue. But as for our other projects, the FEMA pump station has been bid out. It's been accepted. The work is tentatively scheduled for fall of 2023. I believe you signed something last week for that, Jeanette?
Yep.
Was
So
that
we're
just a
moving
contract
forward
or
with that.
something?
Yeah, that was the accepting the bid.
Yeah, the contractors basically decided to wait till fall because of summer season, and just doing that mess down there when there's people around probably wouldn't be a good idea.
Yep.
The disinfection grant, the engineering report has been completed and sent into DEC, and those comments that were sent back were answered to. I don't believe that they've answered back yet. Generally, this is a very long process and quite tedious. I will say that when I was at the conference, I got to meet the representative who is to sell us the UV unit, and I look at what it looks like and all that. It's a pretty neat piece of equipment, and I think it's going to work really well for us.
Okay.
And then as for the generator grant, as we decided to use funds from the project that we have kept open, there's certain requirements that need to be met in order to use those funds, including MWBE, which is minority women-owned businesses. Those requirements need to be met, so Brendan handed everything that he's already completed off to them to prepare what we need to purchase the generator, and we still are waiting to hear back from them.
Okay. So there are 2 additional grants that I've talked to with Brendan last week. And so one of them is to reapply for the water grant, for the water system, to close the loops and update those systems. And then the other is to put in for an engineering grant under wastewater. So there's been a discussion in the past for those who are within the village living on South Shore who are under septic. Very difficult time, getting new leach fields and things like that. So it's going to be an engineering report to see if there are, correct me when I go astray, Ed, almost like pump stations from the holding tanks that would go into a sewer line that would bring it up to the plant.
Yeah, so this would also include Route 8. This would also include Route 8. That would be my recommendation. That part of that Route 8 has actually already been planned for.
Okay.
I'm not sure plans were drawn up, but it was originally part of the I can't remember the name of it. It was part of a plan when the campgrounds needed to replace their septic system.
Right.
So Route 8 should also be part of that, not just
Yes.
South Shore Road.
Yes.
I'm in complete agreement. It's just a matter of being able to afford it. I think anything to protect our lake is important, and we could always use some more stuff down to the plant. So
this is just a planning grant. So, you have to, because the last one is 10, 15, maybe even 20 years old. So are there any agreements that we need, not for the planning grant, but are there any coordination that we have to do with the town of Lake Pleasant?
as long as we stay in the village limits, we're fine.
Okay.
There's nothing that needs to be. If the Lake Pleasant wants it farther or into their district, then they would have to cover their portion, which we have discussed in the past. And there's a plan from 5 years ago for water out that way. All that is still on the table. It's just a matter of funds. So.
Okay. Any comments to questions to Ed?
Thank you.
Okay. Terrific.
Thank you. Thank you, Ed.
So at this point, Ed, I'd like you to stay on the line. This is a request for water leak forgiveness. So, Mr. Williams, this is where you come in. So I'm just going to read what your wife has written. So I'm the manager. No. Is she the manager of your house?
No, we live, it's our vacation home.
Okay. So, Kelly has written, I'm the manager at the house of 112 Oak Mountain Drive. My father owns Shadow Lake Properties, and he purchased the property in 2022. My husband, friend, and I spend most of the summer in the house, participating at Camp in the Woods. Several contractors have been in and out making improvements this spring. Gary Fouch has done an excellent job running plumbing to the second floor, allowing the house to have 2 full bathrooms. Sometime after Gary and Michael finished the work, an underground valve developed a leak, and the water couldn't be protected from a spill. They asked Gary to check the station, found a leak. The meter had slowed down. And at this point, you had requested that we give you feedback on the if any excess water was being used. And so, Ed, you can point to that. You've measured it 3 different ways, checked the meter 3 different ways, a couple different times.
Yeah, we read it manually. We read it with our RF reader, and then manually again. I don't have that email in front of me. And that was over the course of a week or 2, and I think it was a week. And there was no change in the meter. So I believe whatever was the leak, it has been repaired.
Has been addressed. So at this time, Mr. Williams is asking for forgiveness of the water and sewer bill. Yes, in excess of the regular amounts, the average amounts that you have.
Correct.
Do you have any comments or questions? Because at this point, Mr. Williams, we do a one-time forgiveness so that if there's a leak in the future, you would be held responsible for that.
Right. No, as soon as it was detected by our neighbor, and as soon as we were alerted, we had Gary come out and fix it immediately, and he assures us that it's fixed. We're glad that Ed went and checked because we were concerned that there could have been another leak somewhere between the street and the house, and apparently there's not. And so we've been checking. My wife has been checking it just about every day just to double check.
Okay, terrific. Good.
I have a quick question. question. Do you guys, when you leave, you turn the water off?
Yes.
Outside you do by the meter pit?
Yes.
Or no? Yes? Okay, that's good.
Yes.
Okay. All right, then I would like a motion to extend forgiveness for the past quarter's water bill in excess of the normal average usage of this property.
So moved.
Jeanette, can you clarify just one thing for me?
Yes.
From the letter, it sounded like they were wondering if there's any way for us to know what's in the ground, if that's going to be leaking. I understand from this conversation it's not. At the moment, I'm not sure from the letter if we can even know or predict if there'll be another leak.
No.
We were not asking to predict. We were just Gary found a broken valve. He fixed that, but we were not sure if there was could have been another leak somewhere along the line. And so by Ed checking it apparently, and then we've been checking it, that there has not been an inordinate amount of water being leaking.
Okay, great. As long as you're satisfied that it's all ready to go.
Good.
That's fine.
Nope, good. Any other comments or questions? Oh, we need
Nobody did. Rebecca
Jim.
had a question.
Yeah, so Jim will second. Questions? All in favor say aye.
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 All opposed say no. Motion carries. So, Mr. Williams, the clerk treasurer will be contacting you as to the amount due.
Okay. Thank you so very much to the whole board.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Welcome to the neighborhood.
Thank you. We're excited to be there.
Great. Okay. Anything else for Ed? No. All right. Thank you, Ed.
Have a good night.
You too. Clerk treasurer's reports. Mrs. O'Brien.
Mandatory employee training for sexual harassment and workplace violence has been scheduled for June 27th. Everybody should have gotten an email, including board members, planning board members, zoning board members, all employees, and the lifeguards. That's at 11 a.m. and lunch is provided. The 2022-23 year has been closed and the new year has been opened, and payments have been coming in steadily. Lifeguards are all set with their suits and their gear, and they're preparing to open the beach on the 30th. We will have it open 7 days a week this year, so that'll be great.
Through Labor Day.
Through Labor Day. Yep, that is the plan. The fire department, so if everybody remembers back during budgeting, actually even before that, the fire department's generator has been not working. Insurance won't cover it because of the nesting of mice. So they got a second quote that was a little less than their first quote for a new generator. It's $24,513. But in order for them to place the order, we need to put 50% down. So we did budget that. We budgeted 17, and then we were going to be using some from the equipment fund, like the DPW, like the capital fund, right? Equipment fund to cover the rest of that cost. So they were just asking if we could send this in as soon as possible. We did not get in the abstract today, but I wanted to have it approved before we send it out, because it's going to take 6 months for them to get it in. That's the estimate. So it'll be 50% is $12,256. So if it's okay,
How much is it? 24,000?
Yeah, $24,513.
Yes.
They think they might be able to have it come in a little bit less. There's some in here for removal of the old generator, and they said they might be able to remove that themselves. So it might come in a little bit less.
So for that amount, we should have 3 bids.
Right, so they had the one before, so there's only 2. There's the Gore Electric and, we made them find another one. But they were gonna go through the Cummins dealer in Albany.
Yes.
And they said that was the only one, but we had them go back and check to see if there was another one that could provide the same.
Right.
And then Gore Electric was able to provide one for.
Okay, so if there's a 3rd bid missing, because they can't get a 3rd bid, if a note can be attached to that file.
Well, my understanding of the procurement policy too, if there's
is Cummins through
sole
the state?
source or there's only a limited number.
Right, so something to that effect, noting that these are the only 2 sources available, or whatever, to caveat the fact that we need 3. Okay. So I would like a motion to approve the purchase of a generator for Speculator Volunteer Fire Department. So Cindy, second. Jim, second. Sorry, first, second. Yes. Comments or questions? Jim. Yeah. Any?
Can we also add that we can send us payment out as soon as possible?
Let me change the motion. So I would like a motion to approve the purchase of a generator up to the amount of $24,513 and approve the sending out of that half the down payment this week. So may I have an approval? Cindy still approves. Second. Jim. Okay. Any comments or questions? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
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 Okay, motion carries.
Hopefully we'll have it before winter in case we need.
Yeah, right.
And there'll be no blackouts before then.
Yeah. Hopefully.
Okay.
Lastly, the financial report for May of this year is ready for review.
Okay. Did you want to say something about your staffing at this point?
I have a letter.
Yes. So I will complete the clerk's report by saying that we have received a resignation letter from the deputy clerk. So clerk treasurer Tracy Marshall, who are you? Tracy? Well, yes. So she has very graciously extended us a time through the middle of August to find alternative measures that would fit that need, although you will never be replaced. So we still have you for several more weeks, but I would like to publicly thank you for your contributions to this office, to the village. Your service here, it really has been tremendous working with you. It was my pleasure. I don't know about Crystal's pleasure, but it was certainly my pleasure. All right. So at this point, I'd like a motion to approve the abstract number 1. Mark, second. Cindy, any comments or questions? Okay, hearing none. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
And motion carries. Is there an abstain?
One abstention.
Yes. Thank you. Okay, motion carries, and I vote yes to pay the bills. Great. All right. Going through. Yes, you are.
Good night, everybody.
Good night. Thank you, Crystal. So heading quickly through old business, we did get feedback from the lawyers about the septic system erosion regulations that Mark and I will be going through. I'm sorry, Mark, I couldn't make it this morning to go through that. So we shall have that with you within 2 weeks. We've completed the consolidation of the Planning and Zoning Board. The general codes will now be updated accordingly, and we can proceed to get that online, hopefully by the end of the month, which is what we had planned for. So this will make it much easier for our board as well as our residents who are interested in that. Teamsters Union, there is a negotiation. When is that, Cindy? Tuesday. Is that the final one? Maybe.
It depends if we approve it or not, but we sent questions into Jay, and hopefully we'll get a Zoom meeting before that date.
Okay, terrific.
Mark, if you do not hear from me, call me.
All right, no problem.
Okay. Next up, as I reported at our last meeting, we had vandalism in the village by a 19-year-old fellow. In speaking with the sheriff's department, they asked if we would consider doing community service, especially in light of how challenging it is to bring things before the court and charge people accordingly. So it was agreed that he would serve 35 to 40 hours within the community. The last time we spoke, we also found out that he had done some spray painting at the community church, I'm saying it wrong because they've changed the name of it. The Mountain Community Church, Grace Church, Methodist Church.
That's it?
Yeah, so the Methodist Church agreed that he would come and paint the sign, which he completed for the village. He painted all the trash receptacles, so we had, I guess, about a dozen of them, plus a few in reserve that have all been painted. He painted the sign at the point, the flower planter, the base of it. He planted the base of the gazebo where it was needing some help. He restained the top of the pavilion, those places that were showing wear. He also cleaned the public bathrooms every day for 5 days, and he painted the lifeguard chair and cleaned out a few things down at the DPW garage, and is now satisfied his 35 hours of community service. So that's good. All right. So DEC campgrounds continue to be a very disturbing situation. I have checked yet again the status of our campgrounds, despite our petitionings. Those have not been updated since January. So in speaking with the DEC person at an APA meeting about a month ago, they said that they were hopeful that something would happen, but here it is June and we still don't know. I did get a letter from Senator Mark Walsick, who is our senator, asking again the commissioner of the New York DEC if he would seriously open up the Lake Durant, Moffett Beach, Louis Lake, Angler Island, Fourth Lake campgrounds, and all of these are within Hamilton and Herkimer counties. So we're really getting hammered by that. I did follow up with his office, and it turns out that they have moved this matter up to the Attorney General. So hopefully, maybe better late than never. So that's an update there. The next thing that we have been talking about is Peters Oil property. So Peters Oil is located at Four Corners, was once a gas station that was contaminated. DEC cleaned it up. They have a lien on the property of $48,000. The county put a lien on the property, and they have a lien of about $43,000, which makes it cost a whole lot more if someone paid off the liens than the property is actually worth. The county did take it off the rolls a number of years ago when it was clearly evident that Peters Oil has walked away from that. So it is our intention to bring that property back to life because it is in the center of our downtown. In the interim, we have been approached with a potential interested party for that property. And I have gone on to speak with the county and with DEC. It actually reverts to a lawyer who's within New York State OSC under oil spills. So the way this is going right now, there are several options for Peters Oil. One is that Peters Oil, that property, could be given back to the village. And so the village would own it and do whatever we would do with it. And that would not get back on the tax rolls. The second thing is that if the county so DEC would forgive a portion of their lien, and the county would foreclose on it, and it would be put up for public auction. That's a second thing. But the county is unsure whether they want to do the foreclosing or not, or whether they would assign it to the village, and the village would have to foreclose. And that would cost the village anywhere between $15,000 and $20,000 from what I'm told. Okay? Yeah. The third, so the third involves foreclosure of the property, again, whether that be county or through the village. And if there is a buyer, they would enter into an agreement where the portion of the would go back to the state, would go back to the county, and would cover our foreclosure costs. So there's little hope that we would ever get enough to cover the costs of DEC and the county back taxes, but the village would be made whole from the foreclosure point of view within that agreement. Does that make sense? It makes my head spin. The biggest concern of all is the liability for the property. So, God forbid something happens, who would be indemnified? So, we've been informed by the state that they would indemnify any claims regarding that property and any future situations or cleanup. So they would indemnify the village if we took it over, and they would indemnify any future owner of that property taking it over, which is a good thing. And the last bit for the person who's interested in the property, there is a large portion of that property that is in the DOT right-of-way. So it's a big green space. And according to the plans that they would like us to consider, depending on which route we're going, it would include landscaping and a place to put up some benches and, maintain some sort of curb appeal for our downtown. And that would be a situation where we would be able to have it back on the tax rolls. So, and they are proposing half parking lot that would be landscaped and the green space. So right now, the county is talking about what they want to do. Ideally, we've said that we would support them in foreclosing, and we would be in keeping, we would be in favor of keeping it as far as the comprehensive plan within the village, and along with our zoning board, that it would be adequately and appropriately developed in keeping with the village and for that benefit. So they came back and they said, well, we don't know whether we want to foreclose or we want you to foreclose. So it's in that phase of discussion. So stay tuned. Okay, that's Peters Oil.
You going to have public comment?
At the end, we always have public comment, limited to 2 minutes. Speculator Volunteer Fire Department landscaping. I was approached this week with a phone call saying that when the addition to the fire department was put together, the fire department had agreed that there would be some landscaping in the back of the building. So I'm not exactly sure who has fallen down on that job, because how long has been the fire department being completed? 7 years? 8 years? It's a long time, never been done. So there are some residents who are willing to donate some bushes. I have informed them that DPW would not be able to dig them up on private property, but if they were available, we would be able to put them in the ground. And I'm meeting with Roger this week to see if there's any other plantings we have around that can be put there. And also, as far as landscaping goes, We had the county spray the area around the McComas Tower. If you will notice, it did not take. It's kind of dead. So Thursday this week, Lenny Crute from Soil and Water is going to come back and spray it again for no extra charge. Okay. Grant opportunities, it is the season. So we've been talking, Rebecca and Jim, about a playground. So there may be some more opportunities for that. So T-Mobile is supporting 25 small towns and rural communities every quarter. So that's something that we would like to apply to. CFA also has a playground upgrade portion for parks and recreation that we can also apply to. So this may allow us to do a situation where we could get a grant from New York State that would cover 75%, and then the private T-Mobile grant would cover the 25% match. So it's an ideal. So that's a thought. We need estimates for what that plan would look like, or what we think that plan would look like before we apply, and that application date is due middle of July. So would you give us an update, Rebecca and Jim, about where we stand with that?
The next meeting is this Thursday. I think that's the 15th.
Okay.
And at 7 o'clock. And
Here at Village Hall.
Yeah, right here. And we expect to hear if there's anyone in the public who has any thoughts, or we'll just go with the information we have for potentially a handicapped, wheelchair accessible swing, and possibly some sensory items. But we're uncertain right now as to where that would be. So we will apply.
Okay. So we'll carry on with that. That sounds great. The other grant opportunity that has come up that we were made aware of, the comprehensive plan, is something that should be updated every 5 years. It has not been done since 2007. These are very costly to update. So in speaking with Lake Champlain, Lake George Regional Planning Board, there is a grant available through New York State for a comprehensive plan. It would cost approximately $65,000 to conduct. We would be required to match it with $6,500. Of that, we would be able to have donations in kind of people participating in the committee, in the survey. Anyone who is not elected could be reimbursed their time. So what Lake Champlain, Lake George is suggesting is that this regional planning board can apply on behalf of the village, and they can actually do the planning. They've been doing comprehensive planning for the town of Johnsburg this year, as well as Horicon, so they have experience doing it. So they would do all the upfront, they would apply, and then approaching the project this way would reduce the overall cost of the plan because their hourly rates are much less than hiring a consultant firm to do that. They would carry the cost of the plan so the village would not have to wait for reimbursements from the state. But we would have to have board agreement to progress because this would put us out about $4,500. We may. We won't know for another couple weeks. So I would suggest...
What would we learn from the comprehensive plan?
No, we need a comprehensive plan. You have to have one in place when you have zoning.
Okay.
So that's a requirement, and no one has kept up with it.
Okay.
So we are required to do that.
If we're required to do that, and you're saying it should be done every 5 years, then we need to put that into a line item for the budget.
Correct, for our long-term planning, yes.
But we currently do not have one.
Correct. There may be some opportunities that we're looking into that could potentially cover those costs. We should know by next meeting, hopefully.
Yeah, can we wait?
We can wait. Yep. We can wait on that. Okay. Tentatively, I'd like to tell them that they can start putting things in place, but obviously not file until we know our mind. Okay. All right.
So does that take us over the budget?
That would be over the budget, so we'd have to find $5,000 to do that. But I have a plan, Jim. I always have a plan. I can't reveal it just yet. Okay, so the grants in total that we're looking at are 2 grants that would satisfy playground, a sewer planning grant for Route 8 and South Shore Road, resubmit the water project that would include disinfecting, and then apply for a DEC Smart Growth Grant for the comprehensive plan. Okay. Board roundtable, moving right along. Governor Hochul is having a listening session within our area. So they are doing one in Central New York, North Country, Capital Region, Lower Hudson, and Long Island. Rebecca and I have signed up to do the North Country one. Anyone is happy to come with us. This would be July 14th, 1 to 3 p.m., North Country Community College, so we can go together if people would like to. So specifically, the Environmental Bond Act authorizes $1.5 billion for climate change mitigation, $1.1 billion for restoration and flood risk, $650 million for water quality improvement and resilient infrastructure, which is what we're interested in, $650 million for open space land conservation and recreation, which is what we're interested in, $300 million for any additional projects in any of the major 4 categories, which is what we're interested in. So I think it'll be beneficial to do that. And I did provide the board with the CFA grant opportunities. I think it's like an 80 or 90 page booklet.
Mm-hmm.
So no, it is available online. The public is certainly welcome to access that as well. So Jim and Rebecca, there is a section for recreational playgrounds.
Yes, I read that today.
So we can consider that as we put together that grant. And the Regional Planning Board of Lake Champlain and Lake George would help us do that, and they would administer the grant, taking off some of the burden from the village clerk. Okay. We did receive a donation from Deerfoot for $2,200, which is very generous of them. I did mention the DEC campground letter from Senator Walsick, so we're anxiously awaiting to see where that's coming from. I'd like to reiterate again that house numbers are available. They're reflective. They meet building code for house numbers. I have a Word document for you, and there are also forms hanging in SVAC headquarters on the front door. And it's available through the Speculator Volunteer Ambulance website, and there are some here in the office as well as in the town office. And it really is remarkable about how many house signs are not detectable. And so if you know neighbors, encourage them please to sign up. $25 is not a lot when minutes count as alarms are for our first responders. I promised to give you an update on immigration situation in the North Country. NICOM had a meeting with Governor Hochul. So in the beginning, the North Country was not going to be affected, but there are some communities within the North Country that want to welcome in immigrants. So those tend to be the Plattsburgh area, Colony, a few of those areas. They are well aware that we do not have the infrastructure for immigrants. There are some rumors going around that Wells has a Sunmount facility available and one of the old hotels down there. That is not on their list. They're not evaluating that at all. This past week, I attended a county meeting where they were discussing with all the county facilities and services whether we need to take action to have an emergency order, state of emergency order, about immigrants. And at this time, they felt that that was not necessary. So it's not something imminent. Of course, if Wells wanted to do something on their own, then they would be allowed to do that, because evidently there's a lot of upset that has been conveyed through that town. Okay, and then lastly, the 51st fly-in was this past weekend, June 1st and 2nd. Very good turnout. 14 planes came in. A lot of people were able to participate and talk to pilots and things like that. The pilots themselves had feedback that they love coming to Speculator. People are very welcoming and friendly and outgoing, and hopefully we can see them come for many years to come. So they thanked us for the hospitality that they received. Okay, next planning board meeting, the zoning board meeting, would be 7 p.m. on the 27th of June, and the next board meeting is on the 26th of June.
And the zoning board of appeals meeting on June 21st,
Wednesday, June 21st. So that's the zoning. The zoning board of appeals is meeting because we are not able to implement the law until we receive filing notice with the state. Okay. And we do have a full complement of the zoning board of appeals. And that's 21st, you said?
Wednesday the 21st.
Okay.
That's
Okay. So at this time, I'd like to open it. Oh, any other comments, board comments, Mark, Rebecca?
Nothing.
One thing I did notice about reading through with the grant, it said 50% unless you're kind of really underprivileged kind of area, then you get the 75%. I know in the past we haven't really qualified as underprivileged.
No, we would not qualify for underprivileged. And that's for the playground grant.
Playground part, yes.
So then we would look to do private funding 50% and state funding 50%. That's what we would look to do.
Okay.
Private funding 50%.
Right. So if the project would cost $30,000, we would put in for $30,000 with the state. Hopefully they would approve us for $15,000, and then we would put in a $15,000 grant with, T-Mobile.
Mm-hmm.
T-Mobile. Yep. Okay. Any other questions from the board? Okay. At this time, I'd like to open up for public comment. 2 minutes. Yes.
On the comprehensive plan, the one in 2007, that was never adopted by the board.
It was actually adopted in December of 2007.
I don't remember that.
Okay, we have documentation indicating that it was finalized December of 2007.
Might have been the one after that, because
Your point?
after they went and done the comprehensive study, then the village was told that whatever was in that book, they had to make happen in the future and all that stuff. The village board and the town board at the time took the comprehensive plans that they had, and it cost a lot of money to do them, and they shelved them, because it was based on a lot of development that was like outside the park. We are forest preserve, 6 million acres of land that's private and state and it's wild and whatnot, and a lot of that stuff in the book just pertains to places like Saratoga, Queensbury, Lake River, and they have homes with our area. And we decided back then that if we tried to implement, there was room for what we've been doing for over 100 years.
Well, unfortunately, the appropriate actions to withdraw the comprehensive plan cannot be found. So if you can provide that documentation, that would be great, because we've looked and have not found it based on your comments in prior meetings.
I don't think there's a law that says you have to have a comprehensive plan.
You do not have to have a comprehensive plan, but you have to have a comprehensive plan if you have zoning. The Village of Speculator has zoning, you need a comprehensive plan.
The village was told in the 70s that they had to have zoning, otherwise the APA was committed and they were doing the zoning for any town or village within the Adirondack Park. They would tell you what you could do and what you couldn't do. And everything was done on the local level. And like I said, I don't remember anything there where said you had to have a town. That's all I have to say. I used up my 2 minutes again.
Yes. Okay, thank you. And again, if you have anything to the contrary and you can have documentation provided, that'd be great. Any other public comment?
Jeanette, this is Chris here. I'd just like to thank you and the board for taking your initiative.
Great.
Very, very expeditious actions by you guys. Thank you very much for that. The street signs.
Yes.
As you know, I'm trying to get a lot of short-term rental owners within the communities in the area to participate in that. And I did notice just recently on Route 8, you cannot see people's signs, especially in the winter when the snow piles around. So if anybody's out there listening, please participate in this because it is important.
Yes, thank you.
And I'm going to get it more.
Terrific. We will give you some forms.
Good move.
You're sitting right on the ledge.
Thank you, Tristan. That's all I got.
Great. Anything else? Just had a thought in my head that just flitted away. Anything? Okay. So, Mark.
Like to adjourn this meeting?
Meeting adjourned. Thank you, Mark. Thank you. Thank you all.
Good night.
Good night. Have fun, Rebecca. Oh, she's gone already.
Recording stopped.
It's making me so happy. Say something. Who's hi?
Did you like my ace repair? I was impressed. Because I don't even know what a ballast resistor does. It's a resistor to reduce the voltage to the coil for the electronic ignition. Okay. And when you're cranking, they bypass it, so it's full voltage. And when you let go, it goes through that ballast resistor. So when it was disconnected, it was shutting off the ignition as soon as I stopped cranking. I can pretend I still understand that. It's still not. I want to see the suspension. Oh, wow.